start having class in your cabin, Maharaj. We'll start having class in your cabin. Everybody's away. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadori Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadori Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadori Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadori Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yasodanandana Ranjana Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Na Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadori Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadori Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadori Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadori Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Nana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Vishnupad Paramahansa Pavrikacharya Astatera Sada Shishi Mata Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Jai His son founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Premsika Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinda ki jai. Jai Radha Krishna Gopa Gopanath Shai Mukunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Mayapur Dham ki jai. Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the Sama devotees. All glories to the Sama devotees. All glories to the Sama devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Namo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 So today we're reading from Canto 10 of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Chapter 22, Verse 21, continuing with the story of Lord Krishna steals the garments of the gopis. Tastatavanata drishtva Bhagavan Devaki Sutaha Vasamsi tabya prayachat Karunas tena toshitaha Tastatavanata drishtva Bhagavan Devaki Sutaha Vasamsi tabya prayachat Karunastena toshitaha Tastata vanata drishtva Bhagavan Devaki Sutaha Vasamsi tabya prayachat Karunastena toshitaha. Karunastena toshitaha. Okay. Tatatas tanvata drishtva Bhagavan Devaki Sutaha Vasamsi tabya prayachat Karunastena toshitaha. Anyone else? Want to try? You want to try? Okay, he wants to try to chant. Tatastanta vanata drishtva Bhagavan Devaki Sutaha Vasamsi tabya prayachat Karunaste shukoshitaha. Good work. Taha, then. Tata, thus. Anamataha, bowed down. Drishtva, seeing. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Devaki Sutaha, Krishna, the son of Devaki. Vasamsi, the garments. Tabyaha, to them. Prayachat, he returned. Karunaha, compassionate. Tena, by that act. Toshitaha, satisfied. Translation, and there's no purport, but I will be reading from Jiva Goswami's Tika. Seeing them bow down like that, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the son of Devaki, gave them back their garments, feeling compassionate toward them and satisfied by their act. Please repeat. Seeing them bow down like that, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the son of Devaki, gave them back their garments, feeling compassionate towards them and satisfied by their act. So reading from Jiva Goswami's Tika. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur wrote very little, and then Sanatana Goswami's, Srila Sanatana Goswami's Tika and Jiva Goswami's Tika are almost the same, and Jiva Goswami's a little more complete. So this is what we'll read as the commentary. Offering respects as he had said, Tata, he gave them with prema, prayachat, getting down from the tree all their garments, both lower and upper pieces, because he was merciful at all times, but was pleased particularly by their actions. Because of the young gopis' desire to see him, he revealed his fickle nature as a young boy, though it also revealed his nature as a gallant. A gallant is an old-fashioned word I'll explain later. It's related to the word gallant, but it's a word not used much in English anymore. He developed great desire by their special condition of Purva Anurag, filled with great pain, which made them overcome their shyness and pride. Shukadev calls Krishna the son of Devaki because of Parikshit. He was the great-grandson of Kunti and grandson of Subhadra. Shukadev derived pleasure from this lineage. Devaki was Parikshit's great-grandmother. At the beginning of the 10th canto, Shukadev noted Parikshit was overcome by Krishna's prema. You should consider how the greatness of these gopis, you should consider now the greatness of these gopis who were made unsteady by his prema. Addressing Krishna as the son of Devaki should be explained in this way in other places as well. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyanan Gyanan Shalakaya Shakshu Umritangena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnu Badai Krishna Pastai Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamanithanamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachani Nirvasesa Shunyavadi Praschadesh Tarni Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. This verse, number 21, is in one sense the culmination of this pastime. Krishna is now returning their clothes. And they've already come out of the water. They've already put themselves in a totally embarrassing, compromised position. And Krishna now has, seeing their love and devotion to him, he's satisfied, feeling compassionate, and now he's giving back their clothes. This is, in a sense, the end of this particular pastime. There are now 5 more verses in which tomorrow's verse, tune in tomorrow, is a strong verse. Mother Irmala will have a lot to say, I'm sure. The next 2 verses deal with kind of what I would call the psychological nature of the gopis and Krishna at this time. And then there's 3 verses after that in which Krishna speaks about, don't worry, I'm going to fulfill your desires at another time. And then Shukadev Goswami interjects himself again directly, and the rest of the chapter, which is about 10 verses, really is a segue into the next very long and important chapter in which the Krishna is the wives of the story of the wives of the Yagnik Brahmanas, how they serve him prasad, and then after that, of course, Govardhan Leela, and then the Rasa dance, some chapters ahead. So this is an ending of a very intimate and an important pastime, and this pastime is being spoken about by Jiva Goswami in his Tika, and he has some very important things to say here about this verse, in which how it relates to the whole pastime. He says here, offering respects as he had said, tata, he gave them with prema, prayachat, getting down from the tree all their garments, both lower and upper pieces, because he was merciful at all times, but was pleased particularly by their actions. So here we see Krishna, he's giving their clothing back, but with their clothing comes prem, love. And that prem is coming with the clothing, not because it's just an act that is completely in isolation. It's related particularly by their actions, so that this is a part of the play of love between the devotee and Krishna. That this is a particularly poignant point in which they have now given everything. They've overcome all their inhibitions and given their hearts to Krishna. And Krishna now, in the symbolic and actual activity of giving their clothes back, is giving them the prem in that act. So this is the loving relationship of Krishna and his devotees, which is going on eternally in the spiritual sky, free from lust, free from all inebrities of this material world, free from false ego and feeling of control, is simply an outpouring of love for each other. Because of the young gopis' desire to see him, he revealed his fickle nature as a young boy. Now remember, he's 8. But he's like, Krishna is very precocious. 8's kind of like 12. And they're all young. They're just kids. But at the same time, because it's Vrindavan, being just kids, it's not the same way as it is here. But it is the same way, because this is Naravat Leela. It's like human. It's not Vaikuntha, where God is great and huge and powerful and you can't get too close. It's very close and very loving. So it says here, he reveals his fickle nature as a young boy, though it also revealed his nature as a gallant. Now, a gallant, it's an archaic word in English. It means a dashing lover, a sort of debonair and very smooth kind of fellow who pleases the ladies. He's not at all coarse or crude. He's the kind of person who brings a flower bouquet and makes sure that he always remembers his girlfriend's birthday. And he's bringing nice chocolates. He's a really nice guy, the perfect guy. Ladies, you imagine this maybe. But you can't imagine this because this is Krishna. But he's a gallant. So this is like a chivalrous, wonderful person. And we'll see more of this in Dwarka Leela, where he really shows us in his Dwarka pastimes. But this is, he's just a child here, a boy. But still this gallant is coming. He developed great desire by their special condition of Purvanarag or Purvarag, filled with great pain, which made them overcome their shyness and pride. So Purvarag is an important aspect of the relationship between Krishna and the gopis. It's a sort of love before meeting. Oh, look at him or look at her. Love at first sight. longing to be with the person, to have the relationship. And this Purva Rag here is filled with great pain because they had to overcome their shyness and pride. So this is also for us, that if we want to make advancement, we must overcome our shyness and pride, these feelings that hold us back, pride that I'm something great, shyness that maybe I'm not good enough, or that's some, these sorts of conceptions that are not helpful in our execution of our loving relationship with Krishna. For us now conditioned, these are goals. They're not actually something we're actually experiencing yet. And as we'll read later from a section of Srila Prabhupada's purport to a verse from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is a tattva behind this. In other words, we should never consider what we see here to be on a par with what we see in the material world. This is not like watching a romantic comedy. There's so many romantic, or a love story on the silver screen. This is totally beyond that. It is totally transcendental. And in fact, what we see here in this world is tainted with our contamination, our material consciousness. There's a verse from the Bible where Jesus says that his disciples are seeing, it's like they're looking at light through a glass, what is it called? The glass darkly, anyway, I forgot the, but anyway, they're seeing it through a filter. I'll get the phrase, but I had it earlier, but I forgot. Seeing through a glass darkly, that's what it is. So you're seeing through a filter, and that filter is your material consciousness, our material consciousness, so that we can't really understand. So fortunately, we have the association of personalities like Srila Prabhupada who help us understand properly so that we can engage in the process of bhakti yoga, so that we become purified, so that eventually we do understand correctly and don't make the mistake of becoming a prakrita sahaja, which if we break down that those two words means a materialistic devotee who thinks everything is easy or cheap. If we're on a materialistic platform, we think it's cheap and easy. And therefore we do stupid things that are a disturbance. It's interesting that that Jiva also highlights Shukadeva Goswami's use of the word Devaki, son of Devaki, because this is a personal thing. This is Shukadeva Goswami speaking to Parikshit Maharaj, and they have a relationship. And Shukadeva Goswami is saying that Krishna is the son of Devaki because it's Parikshit's family. Hey, this is family. He's in your family, and Parikshit feels good about that. And so therefore, this is what Shukadeva is deriving pleasure from this lineage. It's sort of like, wow, isn't this kind of nice? It's all in the family. Devaki was Parikshit's great-grandmother. At the beginning of the 10th canto, Shukadeva noted how Parikshit was overcome by Krishna's praying. So Parikshit Maharaj is overcome by praying for Krishna, and it's sort of through the family in that sense. And then it says, you should consider now the greatness of these gopis who were made unsteady by his praying, by Krishna's praying. How great are the gopis? Krishna says later on in the 32nd chapter, I cannot repay you for your service. How great is that? They're so great that Krishna says, there's nothing I can reciprocate. I gave Dhruva a planet. I saved Prahlad Maharaj. I've given so many things to so many devotees, granted them their benedictions. The sons of Nalakuvara and Manigriva, the sons of Kuvera, Nalakuvara and Manigriva, I gave them a benediction. I can't give you a benediction because you're too great. Your service is your benediction. So this is how great the gopis are. So the question may arise, and it does arise, if these pastimes are so intimate and difficult to understand, and maybe the cause of people falling down or becoming disturbed or whatever, why on earth does Krishna just reveal them? He could keep them secret, and then you'd find out when you got there. But it's not what Krishna wants to do, because Krishna actually is so merciful that he's giving us the opportunity to actually enter in or understand the spiritual world before we're even ready, in the sense. Prabhupada, in a long purport to the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 4, verse 30, Adi Leela. This is an important chapter. It's the chapter of the confidential reasons of why Lord Chaitanya appeared. There is one sentence here, and I'll unpack the purport afterwards. There's one sentence here at the end that really, in a sense, encapsulates why we have been given the privilege and the extremely great mercy from the Lord to hear these pastimes. Prabhupada writes, the reason the Lord displays the Ras Leela is essentially to induce all the fallen souls to give up their diseased morality and religiosity, and to attract them to the kingdom of God to enjoy the reality. Sarvadhamma parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. Wait, surrender, give up everything, but give up everything for what? Not the void, not even Aishvarya, but Madhurya, sweetness. So this is the essence of why we're getting the merciful stories given to us in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is 18,000 verses, and divided into 12 cantos, and almost 30% of the whole Bhagavatam is the 10th canto. So much is about this loving, these loving relationships that Krishna has in Braj, and then later on in Mathura and Dwarka. So there's a reason why Krishna wants us to know this, so that we can give up our sick mentality in this world. And through the agency of great souls like Srila Prabhupada, and before him, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and the great acharyas like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and the 6 Goswamis, and Lord Chaitanya's mercy himself, we're given a way to enter into this. It's very special, and we're very fortunate. So this is a verse where it comes in a series of verses. I won't even read the verse itself because it's out of context. But the context is that Krishna is speaking about why he's going to come, and how he enjoys with the gopis, and how he wants to exhibit this in the world. And the verse itself says, neither the gopis nor I shall notice this, for our minds will always be entranced by one another's beauty and qualities. So Prabhupada, he's writing a purport here. This purport is like what I would call a paradigmatic purport. This is a very important purport. This contains the complete understanding of how we should approach these pastimes with the proper mood of awe and reverence, but knowing that if we follow in the footsteps of our Gurudev, chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and following the process in association with devotees, that pure love that's seen in the relationship of the gopis with Krishna can and will manifest. So I'm not going to read the whole purport. I'm going to paraphrase and read some particular parts. So Prabhupada's first paragraph in this purport, he talks about the difference between Narayan in the Vaikuntha planets and the relationship that devotees have with Krishna in the Goloka Vrindavan Krishna Loka planet. That the devotees in the Vaikuntha planets, they are on this platform of Aishvarya and on reverence. Krishna is, or Narayan is on high, God on high, as they would say in the Christian tradition. He's definitely God. He's definitely powerful. he definitely loves you, but you definitely can't get close. You know that the Queen of England and the royal family, when they're together in Scotland in the summertime and doing their activities, if people come to their house, they can just hang out with them. But only those who are really close. But when there's an official sort of gathering in London, the Queen's on some kind of carriage, she's wearing all these ornamental clothes, she's surrounded by guards, and no one's getting close. That's the Queen. Both of the Queen. One's intimate and the other is official. So Narayan, the relationship is official. Whereas in Goloka, Krishna fully manifests his pleasure potency in free loving affairs. And Prabhupada goes on to say that the devotees in the material world know almost nothing about these affairs, so Krishna desires to show that. Now, Goloka Vrindavan, love is the love between the gopis and Krishna is parakiya rasa. It's this special sort of paramar love. It would be considered the worst thing in the material world. It's what we call adulterous. Prabhupada writes, in the material world, this sort of relationship is the most abominable. It causes great difficulties. It's socially unacceptable. It used to be, maybe not so much now, but it still is to some degree unacceptable, and it ruins relationships. It ruins families. It ruins things. It's bad. But in Goloka, it's so sweet because it's all part of Krishna's play of Yogamaya. And then Prabhupada writes, such feelings between the devotee and the Lord are presented by the influence of Yogamaya. We're now under Mahamaya, the deluding energy that, what does it say? That this material world, daivam prakritam ashrita, it is difficult to overcome. It's not a happy place. To kalayama shasvatam. It's a place of temporary and full of miseries. But in the spiritual world, this Yogamaya facilitates eternal loving pastimes. And Prabhupada connects us now to something we can all understand, a Bhagavad Gita verse. The Bhagavad Gita states that devotees of the highest grade are under the care of Daiva Maya or Yoga Maya. Mahatmanas tu mamparta daivam prakritam ashritaha. This is the verse from the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. O son of Prita, those who are not deluded, the great souls are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. But in Vaikuntha, that's one way, and in Goloka Vrindavan, they may know he's original and inexhaustible, but they don't think of him as God. He's their friend, he's their lover, he's their child. This is what it means to be under Yogamaya, to take shelter under the Daivam Prakritam, to take shelter under the energy of the Lord in loving relationship in eternity in Krishna Loka. Prabhupada writes further, he says, those who are actually great souls, Mahatmas, are fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, always engaged in the service of the Lord. They are under the care of Daivi Prakriti or Yoga Maya. Yoga Maya creates a situation in which the devotee is prepared to transgress all regulative principles simply to love Krishna. And then he goes on to say devotees don't like to do this, but under the influence of Yoga Maya, they're prepared to do anything to love Krishna. Now, this isn't for us. We're under practice stage now. We don't know how to play the instruments yet. We're just learning, so we have to be very careful. But this is the goal of the Daivam Prakritam, to take shelter under Yoga Maya. And then, because Prabhupada then says, those under the spell of material energy, like me, cannot at all appreciate the activities of Yoga Maya, for a conditioned soul can hardly understand the pure reciprocation between the Lord and his devotee. Well, that's a problem. What are we going to do about that? Prabhupada says, but by executing devotional service under the regulated principles, one can become very highly elevated and then begin to appreciate the dealings of pure love under the management of Yoga Maya. We're on a path. It's been given to us. The pure devotee has given this formula. Here's what it is. This is the goal. Don't try to fake it. Try to follow in the footsteps, not imitate. The spiritual loving sentiment induced by the Yogamaya potency, both Lord Sri Krishna and the damsels of Raja forget themselves in spiritual rapture. By the influence of such forgetfulness, the attractive beauty of the gopis plays a prominent part in the transcendental satisfaction of the Lord, who has nothing to do with mundane sex. Because spiritual love of Godhead is above everything mundane, the gopis superficially seem to transgress the codes of mundane morality. This perpetually puzzles mundane moralists. And by this, Prabhupada then quotes a verse from the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and we must understand this, that many of these mundane moralists are not like jug-eyed, mud-eyed drunkards in the street falling down and being gross. They may be religious, they may be very well situated, they may be honest, they may have good habits, they may be in all ways exemplary. But they can't understand. It's like the British missionaries coming to India, and they would read this and they think, oh, this is, they couldn't understand. They were superficially, at least, pious people. But what does it say here? Naham prakasha sarvasya yoga maya samavrita mudo yam nabijanati loko mam ajam avyayam. I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. That's persons who are covered over by Mahamaya because of ahankara. I am British, I am Christian, I am, helping these poor people in India. That they may be thinking. Or I may be thinking, I am a man, I'm American, I'm this or that. Or I'm a dog or a cat, or whatever we're thinking. Covers us. What does it say? Sarvopadi vinir mukta. Tatparat vena nirmalam. We have to give up our upadis, our designations. Not a this or that or anything. I am ultimately a servant of Krishna. For them, I am covered by my internal potency. For Yoga Maya gives a place to play for the gopis, and it's a big wall for everyone else. And therefore, they do not know that I am unborn and infallible. So, this is a problem. The acts of Yoga Maya make it possible for the Lord and the gopis in loving ecstasy to sometimes meet and sometimes separate. These transcendental loving affairs of the Lord are unimaginable to the empiricist involved in the impersonal feature of the absolute truth. Scientists, empiricists, they're looking for answers. I'm going to have a big telescope. I'm going to have a big this, or different kinds of scopes to try to understand the world. And they can understand so much about the world. But just like a detective knows that we have who, what, where, when, and how, and why. So you can have the how, you can have the when, you can have the where, you can have all these things, but you don't have a who and a why. You can't solve it. You have to know. You have to know what. You may even know the who is, but you have to know the why. Then you may know the why, but you don't know the who. You can have all the other details, where the crime happened, all these different things. When it happened, how it happened, but you can't solve it. They can't understand because they can't understand God through their empirical methods. So then, what does Prabhupada say? The Lord is so merciful that He Himself descends to take the fallen souls back to home to the kingdom of God, where the erotic principles of Godhead are eternally relished in their real form, distinct from the perverted sexual love so much adored and indulged in by the fallen souls in their diseased condition. The reason the Lord displays the Rasa Leela is essentially, as I read before, to induce all the fallen souls to give up their diseased morality and religiosity and to attract them to the kingdom of God to enjoy the reality. So this is what Krishna has done. That's why He has done it. Now we may ask ourselves, what is a way, a step, a direction we can take? And I was studying the Bhagavad Gita some days ago, and looking at another edition of the Gita, which has commentaries by Vishwanath Chakravarti and others. And this one comment, part of one of the tikas, is a quote from the Srimad Bhagavatam 11:11, 38 and 39, which is part of the Uddhava Gita, and it's the chapter of it's the description of liberated and conditioned souls. In the Prabhupada, in the BBT version, these two verses come as part of they translate verses 34 through 41, and there are all these different descriptions of activities in Krishna consciousness. This particular translation is slightly different, but it's the same thing. It's just 38 and 39. And it gives us a real template of how to act. And I will apply this to, you can think of Srila Prabhupada here, or you can think of Bir Krishna Goswami here. Because this describes how a devotee engages in Krishna consciousness and how Krishna then gives facility and how the devotees around him help. Here it says, one should faithfully install my deity form in the temples. If one is unable to perform this work alone, he should make the endeavor with the help of others. He should make flower and fruit gardens, cities and temples for me, as well as places to celebrate my pastime festivals. Like a faithful and devoted servant, he should render service in the temple without duplicity, clean it, wash it, sprinkle it with fragrant water, and perform various services. So, of course, Prabhupada came to America and started the whole Krishna consciousness movement. And Bir Krishna Maharaj came to North Carolina, started a temple. And he couldn't do it alone. But he engaged others in the service. And by engaging others in the service, a community of devotees is built. And what does that community do? They endeavor to serve the deities. They create flower gardens and maybe a little city, temples, places to celebrate pastimes. And everything grows. And it becomes an organic sort of like a tree of bhakti. Now, Lord Chaitanya's tree has ISKCON as a branch, and Prabhupada is given so much. Well, we are also the twigs of that branch. So we should actually see how through the process of engaging in Krishna consciousness as it's given in the Bhagavatam, it's everywhere in the Bhagavatam, and under the direction of a pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada, that gradually, step by step, we will come to a platform in which we can enter into these eternal loving pastimes with the Lord. We're not there yet, but Prabhupada has guaranteed it. And along the way, if we follow the process and do the things that it says here, like develop temples and work together, we should have so much care and love and affection for the devotees. We're all in this together. This is devotional service, is to love the devotees, to serve the Lord, to help others who aren't Krishna conscious become Krishna conscious. We can avoid the demons. They're going to do whatever they want. But we can try to build a beautiful society in which everyone can serve and eventually become purified and enter into a relationship with Krishna in eternity. But that may take some time. But by Krishna's grace, the trip is a good thing too. And we just have to become very, very focused on the goal. So I'll stop there. It's hardly any time if there's any questions. Okay, there's only a minute. So, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.